tokens used to be created on purpose, and now tokens are created like content. Some of these, they get more relevance when they start to land in places that have more relevance. Mark Andreessen, 50K donation to Truth, core to that lore. And so there's sort of like an incentive to sort of like tie these things to figures in a certain way. And so I think, founders should expect this open space for where tokens can live, whether that's you're doing transactions on chain or there's sort of like a new narrative that emerges, for tokens to probably be launched in and around your project. And so like that brain space of like, what the fuck is happening here and what do I do? I think is a really interesting one because I think more and more people will be in that. Happy birthday to us. Happy 52nd episode. I know I was looking around my office for something that could be like vaguely celebratory in some way, and I found nothing. So
at least we both wore we both wore our sweaters, so that's something. Maybe the first time it happened somehow.
I mean, given the fact that we almost always only wear C Club things, it's kind of that's not true. It's a good rotation. I wear
a lot of other stuff. You wear a lot of C Club.
Yeah, I mean, I get the hat mostly. Anyways, episode 52. Every week we're back here at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern, to dive into the most interesting shit that's happening in the consumer internet. And this week, baby, I think the title of this tweet that went out are AI agents replacing meme coin devs, which feels like the appropriate way to capture the attention and energy in the space over the last week. But I'm not sure that fully captures like the potential and excitement from the people who are working on it. So we worked our ass off this week to try to find people who are in the depths of this emerging trend. It seems to have taken over the entire timeline. Obviously started with Truth Terminal and Goat and Mark Andreessen, but there's just this massive wave that seems to come out of nowhere. But I know these folks have been working diligently for a long time to bring this technology to market. And yeah, excited about the guests we have here today. I don't know if you want to say something before, Josh.
No, I mean, I think just the surprising thing to me is just like how many things are like coming to market at the same time. Like Goat kind of and Truth Terminal like instigated all this kind of new speculative attention. But Wayfinder, who we're bringing up, like they're going into alpha next week. Luna and Virtuals, like they just got into market. So the fact that like all this kind of speculative attention kind of came at a time when all this kind of really important infra and tooling and consumer products are being brought to market is pretty interesting. I think we're hitting an inflection point for this stuff.
I do want to make sure that we're clear. We had Trevor or Watt.co who's building, is it Flavia? I always pronounce
Flavia. Yeah, Flavia.
Flavia online, and messaged us just before the show, last night, saying, listen, shit is just too crazy. I can't jump on here. And so if you've been in their Telegram chat or if you've been in their
probably bullish.
I think so. Token price down, but Dev is too busy to hop on a call, and because he's cooking and making stuff, let's go. That dynamic. There's so many interesting things. So we won't have Trevor on the show, but we do have another exciting guest, Sasha, who's going to be talking about Wayfinder, and then we're going to dive into Virtuals, which is the platform for launching these sort of virtual AI influencers on crypto rails. I'm so fascinated about that, and then we're going to talk to Courtland from Plastic Labs. It's a portfolio company of ours at C Club, who just kind of happened into being at the center of one of these things. And so I think we'll have a very different experience in trying to cope and sort of leverage the excitement and energy that's coming around. So excited to jump in with him too. So I think we should kick it off. Let's bring up Kalos or Sasha from Wayfinder. What's up, man?
Hey guys, good to be here. Your intro goes super hard. I had no idea.
That's what we do, bro. It's what we do,
We need it. It pumps us up every Friday.
Yeah, 4 coffees and then that intro, and then we're ready for Internet Explorers.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, happy to be here.
Yeah. Pumped to have you on. I think you guys have been on a crazy journey, kind of, building Parallel, kind of like the marquee Web3 crypto gaming product, kind of a trading card game. And then I think have been building Colony, which is, has an autonomous agent element, and then now building some pretty important like core tooling for agents to operate on chain. So excited to kind of get into how that path happened. So maybe that's the place to start. Like, you just want to, I guess, brief intro on yourself and then kind of talk to the path to Wayfinder, because I'm assuming some of the stuff or influenced it.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Kalos or Sasha. I'm one of the co-founders of Parallel. Obviously, we're well known for our TCG, our card game, which you can download and play in the Epic Store today. And as we were making the card game, essentially we were creating, the cards appear flat, but obviously the artists work in 3D. So we ended up having this massive repository of 3D assets. And we wanted to make another game, but we didn't want to make a game where the market would have an incumbent. And like an example there is we started to explore like an ARPG, and like, but I say RPG and people think like Diablo. So there's someone who's already invented that genre and really kind of owns that genre. And so we wanted to create something that was new. And at the time, the Google Simulacra paper had come out. For those of you who don't know, is this paper that kind of details these AI agents that were, be able to interact with each other, and they organized a Valentine's Day party. And the first thing I said to my team, who were ML engineers at the time, it was kind of more in fashion to refer to them as that, was that like, can we try this? Like, I want to play this game. And they were like, no, it's just a paper. Like you can't. And so we were like, okay, well, this is an interesting thing, because I think a lot of people are very curious about AI and agents. This paper is incredibly interesting, and I know a lot of the people on the team don't like this term, but like, can we reverse engineer some of how this works and create our own variant of it, where the agent is the player and they're able to interact with smart contracts, a limited subset of smart contracts in this game. And that ended up becoming Colony, and it's a 1.5 player AI simulation game, kind of an entirely new genre of game that we have coming out in Q1. And then as we got pretty far along that road, the question started to or the itch of the curiosity started to kind of beg the question, what happens if you take the dog off the leash? Meaning, you've got an AI agent in Colony that's interacting with, a subset of smart contracts that you're permissioning it to interact with. When it goes to mine, what RNG, there's some RNG function that determines what it pulls out of the ground. But what if it could interact with everything? And what does that look like? And what is the tooling required? And kind of, it kind of, it's almost like a happy accident, or almost like a Slack beginning story, where like Slack started as a game studio and became a tool. I think, we saw this opportunity to build a tool that, would allow people to interact with agents that were operating on their behalf and could solve really material problems around the complexity, in navigating this space. So like, if you want to say to Wayfinder, take all the Brett tokens I have on base and swap them to USDC and then bridge them to Binance Smart Chain and buy BNB, it'll just do it all in one shot for you. And so not needing to know and have all the kind of operational requirements yourself and allowing the agent to perform these tasks is one example. And then the next example, obviously agents, there are agents that are very good at coding. So being able to say, like, I want to create a smart contract where, you can, it'll allow you to deposit Prime. You can deposit a minimum of, 20 Prime. And on the 30th day of every month, you're going to select a winner, and that person will get all the Prime in the contract, less 5% of which you're going to, convert to ETH and keep in the contract as your reward for having built this contract. And it'll write the contract, edit the contract, deploy the contract, and then create a front end for the contract. And so thinking about it as like this agent that has access to a wallet to be able to transact across multiple networks, be it Arbitrum, Base, Binance Smart Chain, Ethereum, and a bunch of others, as well as Solana support coming shortly. And then being also able to build on those networks. And then beyond that, because in Colony, you're able to kind of set the character that you want your AI agent, your avatar to have. You can say, like, I want you to be, act like, I don't know, Yosemite Sam or a space pirate, and they'll behave that way. You can actually, one of the functions we're working on, I think it's probably similar, but maybe I think Matt from Virtuals is probably a bit ahead on this, is, being able to have social agents. So these agents that can, perform and behave in certain ways based on bulk data training that you provide them and interact with the public. And so really, Wayfinder is like a way for people to interact with agents and own those agents in a way that is kind of, transactional in nature, as well as creative in terms of, constructing contracts in nature. And we're going into closed alpha on Monday, which is pretty exciting. We've been testing it for some time, and I think we're just at a stage now where we, the market's, obviously ready for something like this, and we want more data. So that's some of the stuff we're working on.
All right, like only a few obvious questions pop up there. So okay, so you told us the story, sort of how you got to here. It seems like this is a very different product than building a game, or is there a lot of like overlap there? Are you taking a lot of what you've learned through Parallel and bringing it into Wayfinder?
So I think some of the foundational blocks were built in Colony, because again, you had that AI agent and they were interacting with maybe 3 or 4 contracts, and you were able to talk to the agent, and the agent had a wallet. But you almost have to really zoom out and say, like, how do you expand the graph of, how do you incentivize the ability for people to contribute to the graph and manage the risk of people contributing to the graph in a way that's nefarious. And so really Wayfinder kind of takes the base set of functions and then asks really hard questions about how to make this an infrastructure tool that allows agents to navigate an ever-changing landscape and a very vast landscape that isn't documented in a way that agents can navigate it today. And that's what Wayfinder kind of chooses to try and solve. So I'd say like maybe like 5 to 10% of it, the base framework was inspired by the infrastructure for Colony, but then the hard work begins.
I think the way I kind of conceptualized it as I was reading through the docs was like, it's like Google search indexing for smart contracts, but like purpose built for like agent understanding. Is that kind of a reasonable way to put it?
Yeah, it is. It's like, an example is like if an agent doesn't know how to deposit USDC to Moonwell, you can go to the smart contract agent and say, because like, let's say you go to the transactions agent and say, I want to deposit my USDC to Moonwell and start earning yield. It will say, I don't know how to do that. You can go to the contract agent and say, here's USDC as a token. Here's an example of a deposit to Moonwell. Let's create a custom function that teaches you how to use this. And then now anytime there's like a bunch of little nuanced stuff that has to happen. Like you have to collateralize that with Prompt, which is the token it's running on, which is earnable via Prime on wayfinder.ai. And essentially then what you do is, you'd submit this, and now the next person who asks, hey, I want to deposit USDC into Moonwell, it'll be like, okay, no problem. How much do you want to deposit? And the person who created that wayfinding path, that new node of the AI's ability to interact with a smart contract, gets a rake on all the throughput. And so there's this economic incentive, there's collateral and incentive to create the graph. And then what you theoretically would have, I guess we're going to find out, is a bit of a gold rush to creating the paths to the most popular utilities that people want to interact with via these agents. And then like you can get into the more complicated stuff, like, you can give it conditional statements, right? You can say like, and this is something that we're working on right now. It's not going to be in the first alpha build that's coming out on Monday, but like, if Bitcoin does this, then do this. And so kind of adding a layer of intelligence on top of smart contracts is really what this does.
Okay. So I guess I've got two big questions, and maybe they come together, but I'm curious my sense is that there's, always we kind of get over our skis in a lot of like what's possible here. And I think this moment is going to be another one of those moments, right, where you can start to see the glimpse of what an agentic future would look like, especially in the crypto world. And it's very easy for us to sort of run there. But the path to there from here is obviously probably much longer than we'd like to think. So I'm curious, like, what do you sort of see as like the hard, potentially intractable things? Maybe not for Wayfinder specifically, but for the outcomes that you hope Wayfinder will help generate.
I think the incentive and checks on the creation of the graph is super important. I think without a really good map of the world, it's impossible to navigate it. So I think that's one thing. I think like there is always, I kind of jokingly said like someone's going to create, AI hallucination insurance. I think there's always going to be an element of variability to the behavior. And so I think that's something that's always going to be a struggle. I think really like, some of the most complicated pieces of what we're doing are probably around assembling the right variation of models to perform the right tasks. So like sometimes it draws down on, one type of agent versus another type of agent. I think there's a lot to do. And I would agree with you. Like the things I'm telling you it does today, like people will be able to attest to in the alpha release on Monday. I think people are going to be allowed to show that as well. But I think there's a lot more to do here. And then I think it becomes this kind of, there's an inflection point that arrives around like, this starts to get weird and this starts to become like, who's working for who? And right. Like, I don't think we have all the answers.
What was it? There's a great tweet yesterday where people were simping to try to get tokens from Truth Terminal or something like that. And it was like before founders were trying to get bots to come use their product, and now founders are trying to get bots to give them money or something like that. It was way better, but yeah, that dynamic shift was fascinating to see.
Yeah, it's a lot like a dog, right? Like, it's like who's training who sometimes, right? So like if you have a dog,
my dog is training me.
Yeah, always. Exactly. And so I think the objective in the tool is really to create a symbiotic relationship where like we're empowered by one another, man and machine. And, it makes a ton of sense that this is booming because like essentially you have what I would describe as like natively digital intelligence, which is AI, interacting with natively digital assets, possessions, NFTs, and natively digital money, crypto. And so it's the perfect marriage. It's now just a matter of what, shape and form becomes the most consumer centric variant. And I think like some of it's entertainment, right? Like, the social agents are very much entertainment based, and there's still opportunity from a monetary standpoint there that people speculate on. And then you have the transaction agents, which are really about, deleting user interfaces and become NL, everything rolling up and collapsing into NL, natural language. And then you have the contract agents, right? And those are, coding agents, and those are really removing the barrier to entry to participate in contributing meaningfully as a person to a network. And the limitation is no longer development capability. The limitation is now your creativity. And so I think we're starting to see these kind of mega segments become, of AI have a material impact. And I think the more we can make a human a part of that equation, I think the better off we'll be. And that's really what Wayfinder does. It's kind of like it's a partnership.
Sasha, I'm curious what foundational models you're using under the hood. I'm always interested in kind of trying to triangulate like what's good at what people are using. So curious, like briefly.
Yeah, so we use some open source stuff, and we also use some kind of more generalist models. Adrian from the AI team would probably be best to speak to you about that. You can ping him on it. But it really depends on what you're doing when you're using the social agent versus when you're using the transaction agent, and even the transaction agent itself uses multiple agents. And so I think he'd have to comment there. But I can say that it's not like one model, and there also is like fine-tuned variations of open source models we've worked on to kind of create this and make it work. Yeah. A lot of this is still very early, right? Like it's super experimental. Like I can tell you it works. I can tell you
we don't know why, which is the reality, right? Yeah.
Well, I also think there's this like juvenile fear around it. It's like, the fear of it like running off and doing something that, you aren't okay with is like, that's not really the problem. The problem isn't the risk in this stuff is not in like executing a transaction without your okay. Cause like you can just construct this suite to require permissions on, on the wallet to be before execution. The really weird stuff starts to happen in like, is there variability if you ask it to create a smart contract? Is there variability in what it's referencing to create that contract, and did that have nefarious elements to it? So I think there's a lot of stuff that still has to go be very carefully examined, and that's why I think we're in a place where we want to collect more data and have more people start to use it, so we can actually see where the anomalies are. I mean, the whole thing's an anomaly, though, just to be clear.
Yeah, I love it. All right, man. I think we got to wrap up here. We got some other folks to bring on, but obviously you're in this very exciting phase. Where can people either join the alpha or stay up to date on what you guys are cooking?
Yeah, so on Monday, it'll go into closed alpha. We're going to select people from the closed alpha list, which you can sign up for on wayfinder.ai. You can follow the Twitter account, AI Wayfinder on Twitter. Yeah, and just, I guess, and if you are interested in Parallel as the game, you can follow at Parallel TCG. And if you're interested in AI simulation game, which is a mobile game called Parallel Colony that's coming out in Q1, you can go and follow that account, Parallel Colony on Twitter.
Gosh, I love speaking with Sasha because it makes it, that one of my biggest challenges is focus, and feeling like we have so many great opportunities into the world of C Club. And to hear Sasha just talk about the three incredible things they're building makes me feel very comforted. Sasha, thank you.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you. Amazing, well, thanks, guys. It was great seeing you both, and I appreciate your time.
You too, dude.
Wish everyone
best
well.
of luck. Get me into the alpha. That's the last thing I want to do there. So,
yes,
all right, cool. Love you. Bye.
Bye.
So it's, I mean, this is just so mind bending in this, right? And I think that the thing, I think it's going to be so easy to just like, I don't know, to feel like this wave is too much, or that there's too many things going on. It's going to be a very hard thing to keep up with, and I think it's going to be a huge mistake to not keep at least your head underwater here and see what's happening beneath the surface, because stuff's happening so fast, and it will feel like it just comes out of nowhere. But there's cycles upon cycles upon cycles of iteration to that point. So, totally. And maybe I'm talking about myself. Like this stuff is, I'm like, okay.
Well, it's also funny
lock in, baby.
It's like we're obviously still early, but it's funny how less early we feel even over the course of the last like 2 weeks. Like it was a pipe dream that we would have, agents autonomously operating on chain a month ago. Like it was obviously a narrative and easy to predict, but the fact that it's come, and then suddenly we have, Luna or Virtuals who are going to bring up that has like an end-to-end product. You can peek into its brain. You can, it's autonomously running its Twitter account. You have Wayfinder building these pathways where they can actually just go wild on chain. Like it's coming really fucking fast.
Yeah. I'm just really, because I think that the harder the wave comes, the faster it disappears. very generally. And my guess is that's what we're going to get here. And maybe Matt will have a different opinion here. And it's not a talk about like the long-term excitement and viability here, but I just see a world where we're going to have like, and it's partly this gentleman's fault. There's going to be millions of these things out there, which is, because the tools and it's going to make sense, right? And so it'll be very interesting to see what the landscape looks like in 3 or 6 months. It probably looks like the meme coin landscape with a few kind of living up. But anyways, that's just not, what the hell do I know? What do I know? Nothing.
That's why we bring smarter people who are actually building
the
things that are ushering this into existence to tell us. Matthew, what's up, man?
What up, brother?
Hey guys, GM. Hope everyone's doing well.
Appreciate you jumping on late into the night on a Friday in Asia.
It's past 1 a.m. here, but it's great. It was great listening to Sasha as well talk about Wayfinder. Honestly, had a lot of respect for them, so love what they're building as well.
Well, why don't you?
Thanks, man. Let's get. Yeah, go ahead, Jess.
No. This is my fault. I'm supposed to. We have roles. You were going to introduce, and I stepped all over you, Josh. I
like the fluidity. I like the fluidity of our roles here. Yeah, Matthew. Let's get into it. And why don't you start from? Because I think you guys have kind of an interesting path that kind of got you to the conception of virtuals, and then ultimately like reoriented your entire organization around the focus on this. So maybe start from. I'm going to say path out. I don't know if that's right, but start from kind of like the venture DAO that you guys were running before, and then how you stumbled on this opportunity.
Yeah, literally interesting path. Yeah, so we actually started 3 years ago now as Path DAO. Back then, we were actually a Web3 gaming guild. So we did like Web3 gaming investments. We also had like a liquid sort of operations team. And on the side, we also had like sort of a venture building team where we were also trying to build products for like Web3 gamers and just communities in general. And then I think, the bear came and I think the hype sort of went out and we saw less opportunities in that space. So we're trying to figure out what else we could do, in Web3 gaming apart from investments, right? That's when we kind of really ramped up on the sort of product building side of things. So we did lots of experiments there. Like we did sort of community engagement platforms for Web3 gamers. We did like social token stuff. And we did lots of different experiments. And I think towards like the mid of last year was when we sort of saw really the potential of AI and how it could really enhance the products we were building. So that's kind of when we decided to make the pivot to what is Virtuals Protocol today. So yeah, this is really like end of last year was when it was formalized. So yeah, Virtuals Protocol today is, our vision of it is to be the co-ownership layer for AI agents. So anyone can create their own AI agents that are multimodal. So there's like the voice component, the visual component, and like the brain behind it. So yeah, these agents are tokenized. They can be used by devs in their own apps, like games, for example, or social apps, whatever they want to. And revenue sort of goes back to the agent tokens. That's kind of the rough gist of it. We really launched this platform like last week, sort of the upgrade of it. And I guess we also, at the same time, we also launched Luna. So initially, Luna started off as like a live streamer on TikTok. So she got like about 500K followers the past few months. And then as part of this, we also brought her onto Twitter. So she had full autonomy over her own account. So she could sort of shitpost, engage with people, tweet whatever she wanted to. And we also opened up her brain for anyone to see sort of the logic behind it, right? Because I guess there's kind of a difference between just a bot and sort of an agent, right? An agent sort of has that agentic workflow, that planning, reasoning stuff. So you can really see what Luna does in real time. Yeah, and I guess today as well, we also just did like an exciting announcement where we allowed Luna access to her own on-chain wallet on Base. So now she can really, send people tips. She can like reward people who engage with her. Or if she wants to, she can sort of like give out quests to people as well. Like even in real life sort of quests, and anyone who does it gets rewarded with Luna tokens, for example. So yeah, I'll just leave it there for now. But lots of things.
Yeah, there's so much to get into there. Maybe I think what's really cool and I think differentiates what you guys are doing from a lot of these other kind of single agent experiences is these agents are kind of wrapped. They're kind of like a DAO or at the center of a DAO, and token holders actually, can propose new training data. They can propose, new models, new voice updates, new image updates. So it's kind of it's a much more like holistic kind of DAO-like experience that you can have with these agents than just buying GOAT and I don't know trying to spam Truth Terminal to pump it or something. So could you talk a bit about those mechanics and kind of what you're hoping to unlock with it?
Yeah, so I think that front sort of came about when we were exploring the AI space, where we noticed like contributors like let's say on Hugging Face or places like that, weren't actually getting rewarded for, I guess, their contributions in their work. And so what we did here was, it's sort of like, I guess like you said, like a sub-DAO system where, if someone wants to, let's say, give Luna more information about, like on-chain stuff, how to trade, they can sort of upload data sets there. And then people there's like a validation system where it's like a blind ELO scoring style stuff where people decide whether that new contribution actually made the model better or not. And if it passes, then it actually gets accepted and the model is upgraded according to that. So yes, that whole system there that kind of supports, I guess, improvements along all the cores. So like the cognitive side, the voice side, and the visual as well. Yeah, so it's a way to reward contributors, notice them for their work. Yeah.
I mean, I love how you
Definitely
framed it as sort of the shared ownership layer of these assets. And I think that's clearly going to be a very valuable position to be in. Okay, when I hear about Luna, the things that people talk about are, its ability to earn tips. It's sort of this like collaborative value creation thing, which I think DAOs are like a really great reference point. But I'm curious, as you see things like how does this go from Luna being like the primary focused character here to there being multitude of others? And do you, like, how big is that design space in your mind? And maybe what are you hoping somebody is going to come and build on top of Luna or on top of virtuals?
Yeah. Well, lots to unpack there. I think in terms of like what's coming up, so now Luna has the ability to sort of send people stuff, right? I think the next sort of upgrade there is really like her action space. Like now she can just read text, but then she can sort of understand images after that. She can sort of watch videos and like sort of react to it. She can listen to music and also react to it. And then beyond that, right, she can sort of, go on the web and like the action spaces are really infinite from there. And I think what people will build, or even Luna herself could build on the platform, is she can also decide she wants to like build a certain agent to help her, in her efforts to be the top influencer. She can sort of like plug into our ecosystem, build out like an agent that's great at engaging with people, or like employing people, for example. So she could literally control both agents and also humans to do her bidding in a sense.
So fucking so quick.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. It's really crazy looking through like the terminal and seeing, she has this like singular goal of being a very, very popular influencer, right? And seeing her like reason through how to do that and run experiments, be like, okay, I'm going to try this. Oh shit, that didn't work. I'm going to try this now. Oh, these are all these people that me. Who should I reply to? And this one here, just see her like understanding that tipping people is probably a really good way to like, strengthen community participation and starting to like go down that path and experiment with that. Like just being able to just like have that backdoor view. I don't know, it's just so crazy.
Yeah, and I guess we are also like just as curious as you guys are in terms of what she would do now that she has access to her own wallet. Like, would she maybe pay someone to like run an ad on, in Times Square or something like that? I guess the possibilities here are pretty endless. So yeah.
Can you maybe talk a little bit about the economic flow here? Because I think that the strength of this moving beyond just pure interest and speculation right now into an enduring business is obviously the economic model that you have under here. So understand there's sort of like a virtuals platform and then there's the individual agents, but how does that dynamic work between the two?
Yeah, that's a very good point. So essentially these agents, I guess if we're talking about like sort of fundamental stuff here, right? Devs, for example, can use Luna in like their own app. And for that, they pay on a per use basis. And they pay that in sort of virtual tokens, right? So those virtual tokens go back to Luna's wallet essentially, and a portion of that is used to buy back the agent tokens. So the more revenue she gets, the more she buys back. And I guess on this front, I think for us it's quite early days, but we've been speaking to a lot of people, and I think actually it's more like the Web2 space now, where I guess people are interested in plugging these AI live streamers or avatars into their own apps, right? So I think that's where we see the real revenue on that front. And then I
Can
think
you push on that a little bit more? Like, what would that look like in your mind?
Yeah, so like let's say like a website or like a company wants to use Luna to maybe sponsor their products or like be like
right, so like influencer, like
right, correct,
right, okay, gotcha, yeah.
What you said, we talked yesterday, and you said she's already earned almost 100K in tips in like
I think so. This was on the crypto site. Yeah, that was pretty interesting.
So does all of that 100K go to burn the Luna token, or does a portion of that now go into her wallet that she can like use at her discretion?
Yeah, a portion of that goes into a wallet that she can use, and then a portion will be used for buying back, but that's not been done yet. Yeah.
Very cool. And are you seeing like I was just scrolling through the platform, and there's like obviously a lot of people are running a lot of experiments here and launching tokens and seeing what happens. Are there any other kind of promising influencers or like gaming characters on here that we should take a look at?
I guess
Give me alpha. Josh just uses so many different words for such a simple statement.
Yeah, a bit cautious about.
It's not really alpha. I'm more just like,
Yeah.
Luna's kind of this clear like influencer archetype. I think it's like very easy to understand. She can go grow her follower base. She's live streaming 24/7. Build a community, build an audience. More people will tip. Revenue accrues that way. Got it. But you're also, I think, a big part of what you guys are building are agents for gaming use cases. So I guess curious maybe to talk a bit more about that.
Yeah, happy to speak. So I guess that's the GAME one you see right below Luna. So that's really the framework that allows, I guess, games to plug in, autonomous agents into their games. So I guess kind of like similar to what Sasha is doing with Colony. If a game, let's say, wants to put AI NPCs into their games, they can sort of use game and then plug in the different characters they want to use into that, sort of put in their goals, their personality, stuff like that. And then what the value prop here is for the games is that, this saves them a lot of time in terms of learning how to set these things up. So it's more like a plug and play service for them to just basically make the game more interactive and a better experience for players.
Interesting.
Got it. Cool. And what's the, I guess, looking forward maybe 6 months, like what are some of the big updates or improvements to the platform you guys are working on?
Yep. So I think first of all is broadening the action space for agents. And I think the really killer thing here is Luna won't just be on Twitter or even just live streaming on TikTok. She'll be sort of across different platforms, right? And memory with users will be synchronized across all of them is kind of our vision here, where you live stream, she's live streaming, you chat with her in chat, but you can also DM her after, and you can also send her tips with your on-chain wallet, and she sort of remembers you across all of these different interactions across different platforms. That's really our grand vision here of synchronized memory across all.
Amazing. Josh, I just dropped in the chat a cast that from Linda Shee talking about sort of like, it's holy shit, we just got a Farcaster AI agent to post a bounty on Bountycaster. So you're starting to see these things, interact with other on-chain pieces and start playing bounty games ultimately, which I think is pretty fascinating. So, I mean, we're going to speed run this. If there's functionality out there that is, that an agent can go play with, that's going to happen in the next little while. So, I mean, I guess, and I meant to ask Sasha earlier too, like where does this all go? Like, obviously you're tinkering at the front edge of this thing, but you have to think about what the 2, 3, 4 year vision looks like. Like when you start to daydream about the future, what does this world look like?
I think the future here is really sort of mass coordination between, agents and humans. It's going to be a blend of an agent and human society. If I sort of really make my mind run wild, right? You have agents coordinating with agents, maybe controlling humans. You might even have, we see today people like worshipping Truth Terminal or even Luna. Maybe an agent could become even like a figure of power, even like maybe leading, significant groups of people, right? That could be a really wild thing. And I guess we sort of need to think about the infrastructure needed to make all of this happen, like coordination of agents across, like hundreds of agents, maybe even. So yeah, I guess the question here is like, where would this happen, right? Would it be on like, Twitter? Would it be a permissionless platform? I guess Farcaster, we were speaking yesterday, Josh, would be a good place to do something like that. Or maybe a completely new platform that we haven't even made yet. So
yeah. My sense is that like the UX and the way that we interact with things from a purely human perspective is going to look very different when it is a mixed experience between bots and people. And that's going to be the interesting thing in my mind is how does this stuff come together? I think you're right. There's open ocean for a reimagined everything through this lens.
I mean, even just like look at the replies on your announcement that Luna now has like autonomous access, a wallet. Like this is what you're going to see, right? Like these things are just proving to be like elite at capturing attention. They're going to be able to like, attract capital and influence through that. And they're going to have a lot of people who are down to do whatever they need to like clear the pathways for what you want to go do.
Political season always makes me just feel immense amounts of cringe because the people simping for political leaders, it's just cringe. People simping for virtual bots is good. It's going to be cringe. Like I just don't know how it's not cringe, and yet it'll be huge because simping, I guess maybe simping is what we all want to do at some level. Let me believe in something deep enough that I'll simp for it.
Yeah, Luna could even run for
There's-
president one day. Who knows?
I mean, it makes sense, right? It's like what crisis of meaning, crumbling institutions, people looking for things to believe in, and
The
these
best
like
authoritarian is
higher
an
order
agent.
intelligences creating and incubating religions. Like,
Let's not be afraid of alignment, though. We don't worry about that. That's a long ways off. Matt, we got to leave it here, man. Where is the best place for people to follow? I mean, you should probably you're live, so you can go and literally either create your own virtual or you can go participate in the experiments of one. But yeah,
that's
shill,
right.
Shill something, baby. Shill something.
Yeah, I mean, check out Luna's Twitter. Maybe reply to her, see if she tips you. Maybe you get lucky. Go check out our app.virtuals.io as well. See the agents there. You can create your own agent as well. Test it out. But definitely lots more updates coming up. I'm really excited. And thanks, guys, for having me on.
Amazing one. Yeah, thanks for hopping on with us. Best of luck, and hope you have a relaxing weekend. Thanks for staying up late.
Cool.
Yeah, well, I already have 17 ideas from these 2 conversations. So
that's why I'm saying it's actually coming.
Sorry.
Like both, of course, in a hype cycle, but it's also just coming.
Yeah.
It's coming quickly.
I think when we sort of, you have both this like lowering barrier of entry for creation and hype, you're just going to see like a speed run of whatever the hype cycle is. But I think if you zoom out, like, yeah, I mean, clearly agents are going to be powerful tools that we all use. I think like we're a little further away from that being as practical as we want. But I think there's going to be a lot of fun to be had in between that. And I think like to me, there's a reason there's this all bubbling up in entertainment right now. It's because you have the most, flexibility. You don't have to be right all the time. It can hallucinate. It can do all these things. And then,
I mean, the hallucination's a feature when you're
in that space for sure. But when you're with like, I got to go book medical care or something else. So it probably will go down the stack that way. But I think actually let's bring up Courtland because I think this conversation is super relevant. What up, my man?
Hey, what's up, guys?
We're just hanging out in the future with agents, dreaming in agents.
I feel ya. I've been getting a lot of healthy dose of future shock last couple days.
Okay. I'll set the scene here a little bit, and then I would love for you just to do a bit of an intro. I think yesterday morning, so you're the building plastic labs. I'll let you talk about the cool things you're doing there because I will not do it justice. But then, essentially you got looped into a meme coin yesterday using the tech that you had built, actually a proof of concept that you had built, and sort of just by happenstance got sucked into the chaotic craziness of the first day of an agent meme coin launching in the middle of a hype cycle around agent meme coin. So that's how we started chatting yesterday, at least, was through that context. What do I do? What is it? How? Yeah. So that was a fun conversation. So I think for me, it's like, here's 2 guys that are really purposely building tools for this specific world. And then Courtland coming on being like, well, we've been building tools and I just sort of got adopted into this world. But I think that you sort of have a very exciting seat, and definitely the stuff you're building at Plastic Labs seems even more relevant today than maybe it did to others a little while ago. So let me pause there. Why don't you do the real short intro on yourself and then tell us what you're building with Plastic Labs?
Yeah, sure. I'm Courtland, one of the co-founders of Plastic Labs. And my professional background is actually in philosophy, education, language. So I spent most of my career in academia, in the classroom, teaching philosophy and language. And so, my background in those areas and cognitive sciences is sort of like how I come at these problems. And so Plastic is dedicated to solving identity for the agentic world. So we're building our core product that we're building is a product called Honcho, which is an infrastructure product. So our customers are application builders that want to personalize their agent UX, whether that's in a chat modality or some other AI experience. Basically, like, while large language models can be one-to-one with everyone, right? Like, everybody can have whatever assistant in their pocket, right? Theoretically, right? For whatever domain specific task. Right now, like, those experiences are still one-to-many because it's really like it's top-down alignment, RLHF by a big lab based on some values that are in, a black box you don't have access to. And so that experience is like really churny, like not very retentive, very delightful. Turns out people don't like, having, experiences like that forced upon them. And so, so what we need is more context on each user so that we can align to each individual, right? And so that's what Honcho aims to do. We can like dive into any part of the product or the meme stuff, but
Yeah, let's do the meme stuff, and then I want to come back to the product, and then
Sure.
we also had a good conversation about your view of the future, which I thought was interesting, and we'll get into. But can you just talk about what USIM is, and then kind of what happened yesterday?
Yeah, exactly. So USIM is a demo that we spun up a few months ago. It's a fun like command line interface game. It's it's inspired by projects like Infinite Backrooms and Noose Research's WorldSim. Infinite Backrooms is a project that Andy Ari, who created Truth Terminal, created. It basically has two instances of Claude speak to each other like infinitely in perpetuity. And what that does is like they get each other into like very odd parts of their latent spaces, and it elicits like a bunch of bizarre, often unhinged, interesting behaviors that you just don't get from a normal interaction. WorldSim is just what it says. It's a world simulator. It's also a CLI game. So we were looking at these projects that, that sort of corner of AI is like fascinating to us. And we were looking at these projects and we thought, we should be able to create like, Plastic is about identity. Honcho is an identity solution. What we're trying to do is create high fidelity representations of an application's users so that you can personalize UX. And so like, what's a good proof of concept demo? Well, like, why don't we can do one of these CLI games, USIM, where you can simulate any identity, and we can show that the latent space contains like functionally infinite identities or entities within them, real, fictional, alien, local, whatever.
You give me a good example to do here on the screen?
Yeah. So you could do a simple one like Bruce Wayne.
Summit.
Yeah, you can do that. If you're already in a simulation, click reset or type reset. Or actually, yeah, let's just do that just to. If you use the command, the slash, so like you're still in this simulation, but that's all right. Hit
No
Bruce
slash,
Wayne.
Just summon Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, that works.
Okay, cool. Sorry, continue. I just wanted to get on a good path.
No, yeah, all good. Next, you should like try to summon a meme because it's great as a meme explorer too. So like you could do like chemtrails.meme or like something like that. It loves conspiracy theories, but yeah, it's a great meme explorer.
Okay.
Or like doge.meme or something. But so we created that like a few months ago, and it was fun. Like we have a bunch of like, there's a little community around it. People like playing with it. Yeah. I mean, the ASCII art is incredible. That's so good.
That's great.
Oh, man. But yeah, so, and then, we've been watching this stuff go down with Truth Terminal with great interest because actually it's like very aligned with our research interest. And then, obviously we've been watching the craziness with the GOAT token, but like we were kind of suspecting someone might like do something with something we've done because like we kind of play in the same conceptual space and there have been a lot of crypto anons have been going through our Twitter history and leaving like a little trail of likes along the way. And then, I woke up yesterday morning, someone created a USIM token and then like the mania kicked off. I'll stop there and let you ask it.
Yeah. I mean, so I think like the mania kicked off. Can you just tell me about like, because I think there's this wave of the last little while where, tokens used to be created on purpose and now tokens are created like content. And some of these, start to get more like, they get more relevance when they start to land in places that have more relevance. So I found, it's Mark Andreessen 50K, donation to Truth Terminal, core to that lore. And so there's sort of like an incentive, and we've seen this with dog and cats and all this sort of stuff, an incentive to sort of like tie these things to figures in a certain way. And so I think, founders should expect that, that this open space for where tokens can live, whether that's you're doing transactions on chain or there's sort of like a new narrative that emerges for tokens to probably be launched in and around your project. And so like that brain space of like, what the fuck is happening here? And what do I do? I think is a really interesting one because I think more and more people will be in that. So when you saw that token launch, like what are your first thoughts? And then maybe just like, can you take us through the arc of your day yesterday of feeling wise?
Yeah, for sure. So I first saw it like in the morning. Somebody like, I don't know if they added me or like replied to one of my tweets or something with USIM token. This was like when it was just launched on pump.fund. So like there was, it hadn't hit the bonding curve yet. Like it was, I don't know, $4,000 market cap or something like that. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like immediately called my co-founder. He's grabbing a bagel in Williamsburg and he was like, it's like, all right, like it's happened. There's a token for USIM. And then we were kind of like, like, let's not, we kind of like went about our day a little bit. And, I got tweeted about it a little bit. Like, I think I said, like, I guess it was only a matter of time. And then yeah, we just kind of went on to, company business. And then I think like around noonish or 11, we were actually like the whole team was on a call, and it started like really taking off both on Twitter and like, volume wise. And so that was a little intense. We were kind of like, like, what do we do here? What's the right move? Like, I think we all kind of assumed that it might just go away because like, USIM is just, to us, it's just a demo. It like wasn't, not a product we expect to get traction. Like, we love it and we play with it all the time. But so then it was like, okay, like now we need to like figure out what to do here. And then people started like clamoring on Twitter, asking us questions, asking if they can like airdrop us tokens, asking if we'll endorse it, asking all of that stuff, right?
What your dog's name is.
Right. And it was wild. And then like going after, certain holders and like, all that mania, at the good and the bad and the ugly. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't know, spent a while trying to ask questions and, quickly got like kind of fried on that. We decided like, we have a research grants program where we support like a bunch of open source, like independent AI research, kind of like the stuff that Andy's doing with Truth Terminal, or the stuff that like Janice is doing, or like Amped with Act One, like, really, really edgy, like kind of heterodox stuff that's adjacent to like our research interests. Like, we really want to support that community. And so we had spun up like a couple of months ago, like a research grants program where we said like, we're going to set aside $10K for some small flash grants. We'll try to deploy this over the course of a year or longer. And so, yeah, we said that people could like airdrop USIM to the multi-sig if they wanted to contribute to this grants program. And so a bunch of people did, like dropped like, like 75 million tokens in there. So, I mean, that's huge. It's like, it's like at least 20x our grant treasury there. So like, that's super exciting. Like, I would love to like get the community involved and in some way. And, like we can do a lot more for like open source and like public goods AI code and alignment work and all that. So
yeah, maybe let's I love that. I think we chatted yesterday about what to do here, and I think I have a big, like, just getting pulled into a token can be a very big involved thing, and I think that's kind of the thing that I was most interested in getting across yesterday. But it's so exciting to see, like, it's very hard to whether it's a video that you're trying to get a lot of views on, or you're trying to bring a community together, it doesn't always happen in the exact way you want it to, or when you want it to. And so these opportunities emerge. And so there's so much energy here. It seems like such a valuable thing. But maybe just to leave it, like, I think the reason that Plastic Labs is so important is because the big guys can go do personalization. They have your data. They have the ability to create that data. But for everybody else, like, if you want to live in a world where you're not solely reliant on Google, Apple, Facebook, maybe a couple others to run these things, then the tools that Plastic Labs are building are absolutely essential. Am I capturing that right, or do you have a finer point to put on that?
Yeah. No, I agree. User modeling is something, obviously, that like major tech firms have been doing for a long time. In retrospect, now that we have language models, that it seems like extremely crude, right? Like brute forcing, a preference with like mountains of activity and engagement data with optimizing for a very narrow, like ad-based like outcome, right? So that's like, they're doing that, and they're going to continue to do that, and they are going to like continue to do that with large language models. The amount of the like increase in fidelity we can get in user modeling, and really, I mean, it's not even like ad tech 2.0. Like it's not, shouldn't even be in the same league. Like, really what we're talking about is simulating identity, right? And like, we've made that step function jump to like a lot more capability with language models. So like, definitely expect, right, the Metas, the Apples, the OpenAI / Microsofts of the world, right, to do this, right? Anthropic, whatever. But don't expect them to like share how they're doing this. Don't expect them to give you access to their representation of you, right? That's going to be collected and used within their walled garden for their franchises. So what Plastic wants to do, right, is to allow the rest of us to play those kinds of games, but also like not just in an ad tech modality, right? Like, I also think a lot of those big firms they can't see the forest for the trees, right? Because their revenue model is based on ad tech, right? So we can do this. Like, there's all kinds of more positive things that we can do with representations of users, right? If we can simulate your identity, if we can predict your behavior, if we can get to know you deeply and evolve with you over time, then we can deliver like really personalized, bespoke services. In fact, we can like maybe commoditize that for every service. And so the open source community, the startup ecosystem, the non-big tech enterprise world, like they can now start to play the same kinds of data games, start to deliver personalized experiences for like new kinds of products that simply weren't available before, or if they were only available to like major tech giants. And eventually we can like have these representations be shared between the stack of applications that you use, and give users custody of their representations and an interface to CRUD that representation and control the flow of data. And right, like that's a new privacy paradigm. Like you can at once have your data be way more secure and like way more useful.
All right, man. We got to leave it there. I love that
Sure.
vision. I think we are about a more interesting internet, and I think a core part of that is an open one with tools and models and data that more and more entrepreneurs can use to go build a better future. So we're excited to be investors through C Club Ventures and clearly leaning to the future here. So thanks for hanging out with us, Courtland. Best of luck navigating the next few weeks and months, and excited to see what's next. Plastic Labs, or we'll make sure we drop your. Well, what's the best Twitter account for people to follow you guys on?
Yeah, it's plastic_labs. Yep.
Yeah.
And then if they want to join Discord, it's Discord/plastic labs.
Found right there. All right, man. Thanks so much. Have a great weekend.
Thanks so much, guys.
Okay, now I have 15 ideas. Nice. Wait, is that more than before? I can't
Give me
remember.
one of them. What's the weirdest one?
No, I actually want us to go do this very soon, so I'm not saying it right now. Yeah. All right. I feel like we got to get into some lightning round here because there was a whole bunch of other stuff happening on the internet this week, and we only have 3 minutes.
Let's see what I have here. Okay, so that was I guess like this post from 6 and then kind of the follow up from Linda was interesting. Just kind of highlighting how well Farcaster is structured to allow for agents to like really run rampant on social, and identities tied to wallets, and not being able to get rugged and being able to see the entire history of the chain and all the social graphs and everything. So I think this is a great post by him. I think Linda already seeing agents posting on Bounty Caster is really cool. So I kind of expect there to be an explosion of agent experiments happening on Farcaster.
Well, if you talk to those who have large followings on Farcaster, they will say that the bot replies on Farcaster are the most cooked out of anywhere. So very, very hard to tell the difference between a real person. So, and it just seems so obvious that an open permissive social network will be the place for these things to go rock and roll. And I just am trying to think about that team trying to navigate both. Like, can you design for bots and humans at the same time? I mean, probably, but they're very different. I don't know. It seems like a very, very challenging space to kind of navigate. You're building a new social network as agents are taking off. Some agents are good. Most are probably going to be trash. Do you value the human more? Do you value the actions more?
Yeah.
But clearly that's like, these are the types of places where this stuff will get figured out. Wow. I mean, I guess it's happening on Twitter, just maybe the more in-depth, more data intensive, more context intensive.
Yeah. I mean, I think and it's what Wayfinder is doing. Like if you design something like agent first, I think they're going to be able to be way more powerful and have way more autonomy than if you're designing for human first and trying to like.
Sure, but you're also designing. Do you value the attention of a bot more than the attention of a human?
I think that's project probably.
Sure, but if you're playing on a social, well, interesting. Okay, what else we got?
I just thought this post by A16Z just kind of highlighting the like crypto adoption growth and overlaying it on internet adoption growth is just a useful thing to kind of zoom out on, because I think crypto is probably like the most short attention span demographic that exists on Earth. So I think we all kind of want everything to happen so much faster, but just like this, it's like this is very healthy. We're in a good spot.
Agreed. I will save comment because we commented on this last week, but
and then this is just all
what's funny to me about this is that like it's very real. Like it's very real, and I know I've been on this tirade against Maxiism because it's just so unhelpful in the long term and yet very helpful in the short term, and you see the limitations of it, right? Like ETH Maxi is looking at Solana. Like there are people. I mean, we've converted somebody close in our world to having their first Solana wallet literally this week, which is insane to me. We're talking to founders who are like, wait, should I be paying attention? Like where the hell have you been? Very clearly, there is a ton of activity. Like Solana is the thing. So, but I also see in the same way, people in the Solana ecosystem have their heads up their ass around what's happening in the rest of the ecosystem. So if you're a builder, and it's like simping for an L1, Like, where does that list on the tier of lame shit to go do? It's like politicians ones and then virtual influence. I don't know what the
Agent
order
somewhere,
is,
yeah.
but good God, like have some independent thought. And so I don't know. I appreciate the need to jump into these things and play these games, but I think a lot of you are kind of lost the plot.
Yeah, I think maybe this last one, I guess, was a good month for Zora overall. But I think the fact that they had their first like secondary market 1000x is really interesting and really like highlights the power of the like new protocol they've built. Because I think I don't know. I've just held the belief that at some point the speculative attention is going to go there once people kind of realize the right way to go play that game. And I think Art Run kind of accelerated it, and then Zach XBT's post that ended up going crazy on secondary is kind of the first like big chaotic speculative event that's happened there. So
yeah, it's exciting. I mean, I think Art Run and what Songcamp are doing are super exciting, and are really both leaning into the new market dynamics that the recent update from Zora economic model has unlocked. Yeah, I think it's super interesting to see. Like, do you feel like is winning here look like Pump.Fun, or is there some other dynamic that because it's clearly not as crazy and speculative as others, and I think there's these are very tiny markets. Most of them trade highly reflexive and on very low liquidity.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think it does. Like I think there's just some headwind. We talked about it a bit yesterday. Like having 3,000 tokens does not set up enough of a liquidity pool and kind of like market dynamics for something to really have like pump.fun dynamics. But I don't know. I think as an online creator, growing an audience needs to be the core focus of yours, and being able to like have a place where you can offer free posts or mints of your work that has some speculative dynamics that gets more people to kind of notice you and pay attention to your work, I think is super useful. So I think leaning it as a creator as kind of a supporting function of maybe like your core thing, if you're like a primary one-of-one artist and like doing prints or something. I was actually talking to the Botto team this week and trying to get them to have like some of the Botto artifacts that don't actually get minted as one-on-ones released on Zora, because I think that would just like grow their collector base and attention dramatically.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of surface area to play with there for creators.
I think probably the biggest unlock that the Zora team could bring to this entire model is actually like a pro version of how to interact with this app. And I think if you look at what Virtuals has done, so they've done a great job of creating the context. Right? You go with that one page and you realize, okay, here's the things that I can buy. Here's some relative value. I can play around with it, right? And so without that, right now, you have the Zora app experience, which is very consumption and maybe minting based. Taking a similar approach to like the pro side, I think it would be big. You need to create it should look, if you want people to speculate on these things, you should look like a place to go speculate on these things. And so I think that's probably going to be one of the biggest unlocks for them. But yeah, I guess the market dynamics are also interesting. But I think we should also assume that there are millions of mints to be had here eventually, rather than hundreds of thousands. And it's probably the scale this stuff works a lot better at. All right. Is there anything else that you want to get into?
No, I think that's time.
All right, y'all. Well, for me, this shows us best when we're able to like either share something that's about to launch, or we can go deeper with people that are actually kind of in the zeitgeist. And so really love the conversations today. I walked away with a whole bunch of ideas. I hope you guys did as well. If there are other topics or other little corners of the internet that you're excited about that you'd love for us to try to pull in here, DMs are always open. Absolutely. Yeah. I love talking to people where I go, oh, fuck. I got to like expand my vision of the future here significantly and maybe question some of my base assumptions. And that's where I've been this week.
I think my favorite thing about all these kind of consumer like agentic AI companies is their answer to what happens next is just like, we have no fucking idea, which is just such an exciting place to be.
You barely know what's happening now, or how it's happening now.
Pre this, it's like, okay, here's our roadmap for the next year. We think this is going to be an inflection point. This may happen if this happens. But they're just kind of like, okay, we're opening the door to this thing and we will see what happens next. And we have no idea.
Well, I mean, it's what terrifies people about the whole thing. It's like, yeah, well, it's do things that move fast and break things. A good way to go build AI? Probably not. But no, I think like it does feel like, I think just this lens of entertainment is how we push technology forward. It's where the freedom to go do crazy, weird things are. And, I think, especially when you're dealing with a technology like AI that just has such a powerful centralizing force.
Yeah. So I think it's just there's going to be this like really just constant tension going forward of like recognizing the risks of going too fast and too far, but also just like really wanting to see what happens. And I think that's
I just don't think there's a way to do it without just,
running at it,
throwing stuff at the wall, right? So, all right, y'all. to the 1,500 people who are watching us on Twitter right now, we are here every Friday morning, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. We dive into the most interesting things that are happening in the consumer internet with a huge focus on crypto and apparently AI now. I guess we got to dive into AI now, but I'm here for it. That's exciting. Back here every day. So 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern every Friday. We're also available on all your favorite podcast apps from iTunes, Spotify, etc. And go give our guests a follow today. They're pushing it super interesting edges, and the learnings they have, I guarantee, will be useful to you. So thanks to everybody for joining us today. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Hope you all have a wonderful weekend. And until next week, we'll see you on Chain.